Well, fun's over, kids, because Tottenham's title hopes and Tottenham's title chances have come crashing down. And now it looks like they are nowhere near or have no shot at all at the title. And it's, all because of a couple of injuries. And we saw this coming from a long, long time ago. We saw how integral and important the likes of a James Maddison was, the likes of Christian Romero, and the likes of Mickey van der Ven was, and that all came into fruition against Wolves today. And it all came crashing down. No Romero, no van der Ven, no Maddison, and you could absolutely tell because Tottenham was struggling. They may have had that early goal through the Brandon Johnson goal. They may have had the early lead through the Brandon Johnson goal, but after that, which the goal probably happened in the 3rd minute or so, ever since that point, it was Wolves, and it was all Wolves, and Wolves definitely deserved to win that game, especially considering how wasteful they were. Tottenham were okay? Tottenham were alright. They didn't look as good as they used to. They looked in the previous games in the season. They just looked okay, they looked mediocre, they looked like they were going through the motions, and you could tell just how much they missed Maddison because, they may have had 60 to 70% of the ball in that first half, but they couldn't create absolutely nothing. And I mean nothing. They looked dead, they looked flat, Tottenham's whole system basically runs on James Maddison, and you can see it now when you take him out of there because they have almost zero creativity. Son looked like a shell of himself. He basically didn't have a part to play in the whole game. That whole front three didn't have a part to play in that game. And you could see the flaws of Dejan Kulusevski, where he doesn't have that creativity. He doesn't have that attacking prowess that you would expect of a winger. And instead, he's just a hard worker that helps you, that tracks back and helps your defense. But you could see the flaws in Tottenham when they don't have their Maddison. And they don't, defensively, they looked okay, but I don't think that's a testament to Eric Dyer and Ben Davies. I think that's more Wolves being wasteful because that's exactly what Wolves were. They should have won this game 3-4-1, but they didn't. They were extremely wasteful. They had so much, they broke down Tottenham a lot of times, especially in that second half. They put the pressure on them. They won the ball back. They were the team that held more of the possession, and they really should have put that game to bed much, much earlier. They had a couple huge chances. Huang found himself one-on-one with Vicario after a couple of deflections. Cunha, as wasteful as he always is, and they were just wasteful. And I don't think, although Eric Dyer and Ben Davies were alright, you could tell that you missed the recovery pace of Van der Ven. You missed the ball-playing ability of Christian Romero. And, obviously Emerson Royale and Pedro Porro are still there, and they're more than serviceable. You don't really miss Udogie as much. But Wolves just kept on exploiting that space, and, without that recovery pace of Van der Ven, you could really tell. Because Wolves were getting many, many more opportunities. They probably would get similar opportunities, just by virtue of how Tottenham play that high line, and Wolves have many players that are pacey and able to make those runs in behind, like Semedo, like Aït-Nouri, who was actually very, very terrible. He was one of the main reasons why Wolves couldn't find that breakthrough, because they'd get corner after corner after corner, and he'd be the corner taker, and he could barely beat the first man. They probably had 10, maybe not 10, but 5, 6, 7 corners. Most of them didn't even beat the first man, and that's thanks to Aït-Nouri. But, as I said, Wolves were wasteful. Although you could say Eric Dyer and Ben Davies kept them out for about 90 minutes, you could tell the cracks were there. They were very much apparent. They just kind of got away with it because of how wasteful Wolves were. And just like that, I think it's over for Tottenham. I mean, it was fun. Tottenham, you're a good dude. You're a good dude, but it's over. And you can easily see that it's over. I mean, I don't like to be reactionary, but, we saw this coming from a mile away. We obviously didn't think Tottenham would actually have a title chance, but they looked really, really good. And as I said before, for me, it felt like they needed a Leicester-like season, because the only way I could see them even coming close to the title was if everybody stayed healthy, because their starting 11 is very, very serviceable and good enough to challenge. Maybe not win, but they were definitely good enough to challenge for the title. But now that you've lost Maddison till January, you've lost Van de Ven till January, Romero's suspended, now Basuma is suspended, Tottenham are just going to struggle more and more and more. And maybe this is where we see the dark side of Ange Postecoglou. You know, we see the flaws in his system, that arrogance and the inability to change. You know, that has its positives. You know, being able to stick to what you know and being able to implement a plan like that is very, very important. But at the same time, if you are that stubborn, it can really bite you on the back, like today, when you don't have the personnel and you can see that you don't have the personnel, but you continue. You know, some people will admire it, and you know, if they lasted 6 more minutes, everyone would be singing his praises, but that's just how football goes. 6 minutes, just two passages of play, and all of a sudden, Tottenham lose, and now Ange Postecoglou looks like the bad guy. You see that those injuries are as important as ever, because let's be honest, if Tottenham win this game, you know, although we'd still be talking about how they look lackluster and they don't look as on the front foot as they would with their players, I don't think people would be talking about these injuries as much as they will now, because they lost. And that's just how football goes. You always point out the negatives when they actually are there to point out, but you don't want to do it when they're winning. I guess the only caveat for Tottenham is that, you know, Wolves are a very, very good side. You know, they may in recent times have not been a good side, but definitely in the last couple of games and since the start of this season, Wolves have been one of the better, you know, mid-table teams. They played extremely good football. They always work hard. Their midfield is one of the best, you know, engines, because Belgrade, however you say it, Lamina, Joao Gomez, they all work extremely hard, and you could see that in this game as well. They work extremely hard to win that ball back, and they are the ones that find those runners in behind, like an Aitonori, like a Semedo, like a Cunha, like a Hwang. All right, them winning the ball back higher up the pitch and them releasing those sorts of plays is where Wolves find most of their chances. And that's a testament to how hard their midfield works and how defensively astute they are. You know, they fell asleep in those first 2 minutes, but ever since then, they were almost perfect. You know, again, you could say, is that because Tottenham weren't as creative or they don't have those passages of play that you expected them? Yes, but I think you really do have to praise Wolves and their defense, and Kilman, who, you know, had that huge strapping on his leg and seemed like he was practically injured. Dawson and Aitonori, of course, and Totti, they all did their jobs. And Wolves, for about, you know, if you exclude those first 2 minutes where they fell asleep, they were defensively practically perfect, because I don't think Tottenham only had 2 or 3 shots on target at all. You know, the goal in the 3rd minute, and I think their next shot on target came in the 85th, 88th minute or something like crazy like that. Tottenham were on the back foot for the whole game, really, after they scored that goal. And, you know, they weren't looking to park the bus. Tottenham was still playing. I guess what's next for Tottenham is, can you survive till January? If you really are gunning for the title, which I don't think they are, they're probably looking for top 4. But even top 4 is a stretch right now with how big it is, with the weight and the magnitude of those injuries and how integral Maddison and Van de Ven are to the whole team. You know, obviously you'll get Romero back and you'll get some of those suspensions back, but Maddison and Van de Ven were really the driving forces of this team, you felt. Every time you watch Tottenham, the 2 players that would come to mind that you'd, you know, think back on after the game were Maddison and Van de Ven. And now that you lost them, you know, I don't even know if top 4, I think they might even fall out of the top 4 race right now. And obviously, as I said, it is reactionary, but I do think they will start to drop more and more and more games. But if they can survive till January, where they're only, look, if you're on the title race side, maybe they're only 4 or 5 points behind City. If you bring in reinforcements and Maddison and Van de Ven come back, sure, maybe the title race is still on for Tottenham. But, you know, the real thing and the reality is they're looking for top 4 or top 5, right? And in that case, I think they could hang around there. and maybe you can survive till January. All they need to do is just survive. All right, pick up points here, pick up points there, win the games you should be winning, try and get a point against the bigger teams like a City or a Liverpool, but just survive till the cavalry comes back. Because from there on out, when Tottenham are healthy, they are good enough. They are one of the better teams in the league, it seems, and that's a testament to Ange Postecoglou. But without them, we may see that Ange Postecoglou is not that guy. But Tottenham, title race, it's done. All right, it's done. It was fun, but it's done. All right, it's 1 a.m.